Immy Humes is an Academy Award-nominated filmmaker, TV producer, and author. Her new book, The Only Woman, examines 100 group portraits throughout history that mostly include a sea of men and just a single woman. Like Kathrine Switzer, the first woman to run the Boston Marathon in 1967, much to the chagrin of race organizers who unsuccessfully tried to remove her at mile 4. There's famed Washington Post publisher Katharine Graham, a standout in a blue dress as the first woman elected to the Associated Press's board of directors. And Sarah Fuller, who in 2020 became the first woman to play top-level college football for Vanderbilt University, wearing a helmet that reads, "Play like a girl." So how did these women make their way into the picture and enter a man's world? Humes shares the story behind these remarkable photographs. What inspired you to write this book in such a unique way? Was there one photograph of a woman that caught your attention and inspired you to do this?
Indeed. Thank you for these very kind words, Sandra. Much appreciated. I got kind of hooked on this one particular photo. It was a long time ago now, several years. And I was working on a film project as a biography of a filmmaker from the 60s, a woman from the 60s, very wonderful story. And I found this photo of her surrounded by men. And it was so interesting to me because it summed up so much about her career and her life. She was really often described as, oh, she was the only woman filmmaker. You know, her name was Shirley Clark, and she's not very well known, I think partly because she was a woman. But anyway, she was a fabulous figure, very radical, and she's surrounded by guys. And then I started fixating on this picture, like, wow, how did she feel? What was going on? What does this mean? You know, because I think it really affected her career in a lot of ways, good and bad, like in different times of her life. Being ahead of, being the one who entered the male world.
Is there a common denominator in your profiles of these women? I mean, you mentioned the glass ceilings that had to be broken, the discrimination, the sexism, the ageism, all the things that happened to women. Did you find a common trait that your subjects had?
The book is a bit complicated because a lot of the pictures, a lot of the women are trailblazers. You know, some great big chunk of the 100 are, pioneers, trailblazers, just geniuses who fought from sheer force of character, to enter into that male public world, whatever field they were in. A lot of them are that, but then there are all these other category of women in there, which are people. I was just interested in any example of one woman amongst men, and that includes other people like the naked model in an art class or the nurse in a hospital, like women who were doing women's jobs. And so they sort of entered into the world that way, or a singer with a band, so that they had this like woman's thing to do. So they were sort of given an entree sometimes into the male world.
I also loved the photo of Martha Gellhorn.
Oh, God, yeah, she's a great woman. Another great journalist. There are a lot of journalists in the book, along with scientists and, everybody. But Martha Gellhorn was such a brave person. She was, I talk about the only woman. There were, now I've forgotten, how many soldiers landed on the coast of Normandy on D-Day? Was it 200,000? I have it in the book. I'm forgetting the exact, I'm scared to say the wrong number, but it was, I think 200,000. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but she was the only woman among them. I mean, period. Because she stowed away. She snuck into this hospital ship and pretended to be a nurse and then locked herself into a bathroom so that she could get with the flotilla overnight. And then when they landed and everyone was debarking on the beach, which was this incredibly scary, horrendous, hugely famous moment of invasion, she unlocked the bathroom door and snuck out and got in with the soldiers and landed on the beach of Normandy. Literally the only woman.
Gloria Richardson.
Oh, Gloria Richardson. I mean, she was a civil rights leader And that picture is from 1963 when she's in Maryland, in Cambridge, Maryland, which is not far from DC. And she's this fantastically brave leader in the early civil rights movement there. And there she is confronting the bayonet, the cops with the bayonets are coming in to take, riot police. And she just is like, get out of my way, go away.
So powerful, that photograph.
She's just like, don't mess. We're busy.
In writing this book and putting it together, did you realize just how empowering it would be for other women? Is that your goal of the book?
That's such a great and kind question. Um, I mean, sure. Yes, absolutely. I never really thought of it exactly that way because to me it's just like I'm fascinated with the stories I'm like oh, and with the images, I'm just sort of very involved with the close up. Um, so it was sort of like I just felt like, oh, especially I just was like, would anyone else be interested in these things like I am? I sort of dared to hope. And I do think that women kind of connect to it more or more quickly than men do.
This book will for sure be going into the Feminist Library at the Women's Museum of California. I can tell you that. Final thoughts and what you want people to take away from this book.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I just think that our history is so important. Our history and our, present day consciousness of where we are socially, politically, personally, and where we are as women. And I just think we're still in a man's world in a lot of ways. And even when we think we're not, even when we think we've kind of broken through patriarchy, it's just we've been seeing how quickly it can reassert itself. So to me, these pictures are like they're all portraits of patriarchy in one way or another. In other words, a man's world. And, it erodes, but it quickly comes back too. So, I think, I'm not sure if that's a lesson, but I feel like that's what, for me, when you look at them, that's what starts to come out. Besides the wonder and the fascination of these women's lives and their brilliance.
What I took away from it, Immy, is that these powerful women that pushed their way into the shots and climbed the ladder, they also use their voices. And using your voice is really the most powerful weapon all of us have to make change, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful way to put it. You put it much better than I do. But you make me think when you were talking, I suddenly thought of Bessie Smith, who used her voice like, one of the greatest, blues singers ever. And that photo of her is so magnificent. But yeah, somehow I associated that with her. But
Well, it's a lesson to all of us to continue using our voices and pushing the envelope and getting in the shot and being prominent in the
yeah,
in the photograph.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Or take the photograph.
Take the photograph. And
Any way we want to do it, that works too.
yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, for sharing your book, and continued success. I'm sure you have other projects with your filmmaking and maybe
Thank
even another book.
I hope so. I hope so, but we will see. But I'm honored and thrilled and delighted to talk to you. And thank you so much.